Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel, Made by B Jax. I'm Brittany Jackson, and today I'm going to show you how to make my newest pattern called the Angelica dress. A few weeks ago, I made an Instagram story post asking you guys what kind of pattern are you looking for, and I received a lot of responses asking for a detailed lace dress or a bell sleeve witchy dress, and this was the design that came to my head from y'all's suggestions, and I think this is one of my most favorite things I've ever made. Now, I haven't made this dress in any other size besides my own, however, I will be giving you instructions on how to make this based on your measurements. Here's a quick look at all the materials I used to make this project. Now, no matter what size you're making, I'd advise you to buy at least 5 skeins because when this was all said and done, I only had 2 feet of yarn left over. Not gonna lie, I was a little scared I wasn't gonna be able to finish, but we did. Before we begin, we need to grab our widest bust measurement. Mine is coming out to about 34 inches. Then you'll need to subtract 4 inches from this measurement. So that's going to equal 30 for me. And you're going to divide that number by 2. So my back panel is going to be 15 inches wide. This pattern is worked in multiples of 8 plus 1, so make a chain of multiples of 8 to measure the width of your back panel, or closest to that width. I will be chaining 56 for my 15 inches. After you have chained your multiples of 8, you're going to add 3 more chains, so now I have 59 chains total. To get started on our first row, yarn over and insert a double crochet into the 3rd chain from the hook. Continue double crocheting into every chain all the way down until you reach the very end. I just finished my first row of double crochets, so I have 57 stitches total. For our next row, we're going to chain 1, turn our work, and we're going to do what's called a stacked triple crochet. So you're going to insert a single crochet in that very first stitch, and you're going to go back into that stitch, into this front loop, pull up a loop, and pull through 2 again. And again, go through that front stitch, pull up a loop, and then pull through both. That's a stacked triple crochet. Next, chain 1, skip the next stitch, and triple crochet into the stitch after that. Chain 1 again, skip the next stitch, and triple crochet into the stitch after that. You're going to repeat this pattern all the way down until you reach the very end. I just left my last triple crochet. Here's what my work looks like so far. Our next row is another row of double crochets, so chain 1, turn your work, and we're going to do a stacked double crochet. So insert 1 single crochet into that very first stitch, go back through the front loop of that single crochet and pull up a loop, then pull through 2. That is a stacked double crochet. Next, double crochet into the next chain space, and on top of the next triple crochet from the previous row, and repeat that all the way down until you reach the end. Once you reach the end of this row, make sure you're leaving a double crochet in that last chain space and another double crochet on top of that stacked triple crochet from the previous row. Your stitch count should be consistent, so I still have 57 stitches. For row 4, chain 1, turn your work, starting with a stacked double crochet. Next, chain 3, skip the next stitch, and single crochet into the stitch after that. This is what I like to call a quarter pizza shape. Next, chain 5, skip the next 3 stitches, and single crochet into the 4th stitch. So this is sort of a half pizza shape. Chain 5 again, skip the next 3 stitches, then single crochet into the 4th stitch, and you're going to repeat this all the way down until you reach the end. I'm going to speed up the footage for the rest of this row, but I will meet you towards the end to show you how to finish this row off. I'm finishing up my last chain 5 and I have 2 stitches left, so what we're going to do from here is chain 3, skip the next stitch, and leave 1 double crochet into the very last stitch. And now we have another quarter pizza shape. For row 5, chain 1, turn your work, and we're going to insert 1 single crochet at the very top of this double crochet from the previous row. Next, skip the chain 3 space and leave 3 double crochet into the next chain 5 space. Chain 3, then leave another 3 double crochet in that same chain 5 space. Next, single crochet into the next chain 5 space. So now we have something that looks like this open shell stitch, and then we repeat. Leave 3 double crochet into the next chain 5 space, chain 3, and then another 3 double crochet into the same chain 5 space. Single crochet into the next chain 5 space, and you'll repeat this pattern all the way down until you reach the end. I'm towards the end of my row and I'm leaving my last open shell stitch. So finally we have this chain 3 and a double crochet, and I'm going to single crochet right on top of that double crochet at the very end of my row, and that's how you finish this row off. For row 6, chain 1 and turn your work, starting with a stacked double crochet. Next, we're going to chain 3 and single crochet into this chain 3 space from the previous row. Next, chain 7. We're going to reach all the way over to the next chain 3 space on our next shell and single crochet. Chain 7 again and repeat all the way until you get towards the end. I'm going to speed up the footage for the rest of this row, but I'll meet you towards the end to show you how to finish this row off. I'm leaving my last chain 7 and single crocheting into this last fan, and now we're going to chain 3 and then double crochet on the very last stitch of our row, and that's how you finish this row off. So we started and ended with these chain 3s, and then we have 7 chains in between each fan. Now everything repeats itself, so we're going to do another row of double crochet. So chain 1, turn your work, and start with a stacked double crochet. Insert 3 double crochet into this chain 3 space. Now you can either double crochet into the chains or right underneath them. It really doesn't matter or make that big of a difference. This is the only row that you're going to see me working into these chains just for the sake of time and getting this tutorial done. After you have done those 3 double crochet on top of the single crochet on the shell stitch from the previous row, and then begin leaving 7 double crochet into that chain 7 space. Continue double crocheting into every chain and stitch from the previous row all the way until you reach the end. Here's what your work should look like after this row is done. Your stitch count should stay consistent. I still have 57 stitches. Next, we're going to do another row of these triple crochets. So I'm just going to start doing this off camera and give you an update for every row. Here's my repeat of row 2, row 3, 4, 5, and 6. Here's another repeat of row 1, row 2, and row 3, and this is where I'm going to stop. So I have 15 rows total, and now I'm going to hold this up against my back. You want the side of this to be able to reach underneath your armpit. I'm just going to measure this because there's always somebody that asks how long this ended up being. So it looks like it's about 8.5 inches long. So from here, I am just going to chain 1 and pull a really long string, and I'm going to cut my yarn here. Flip your work over, making sure all of your fan stitches are now pointing downward. And we're going to insert our hook into this far corner opposite from this tail where we started. Grab your yarn. We're going to pull this yarn through and tie it on there with a knot. Reinsert your hook into that first stitch, pull your yarn through and chain 1. Then leave a stacked double crochet into that very first stitch. If you are making a size small or medium like me, then leave 8 more double crochet. If you're making a size large or extra large, then I'd suggest leaving 16 more double crochet. We have to maintain the pattern of multiples of 8 plus 1. So for my first row of my front panel, I have 9 double crochet. So for the next row, we're going to do triple crochets. So chain 1, turn your work, starting with a stacked triple crochet. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, and triple crochet into the stitch after that. Continue this until you reach the end. Row 3 is just double crochets only, so chain 1 and turn your work, starting with a stacked double crochet. Continue double crocheting into every chain and triple crochet from the previous row until you reach the end. For row 4, chain 1, turn your work, start with a stacked double crochet. Chain 3, skip the next space, and single crochet into the stitch after that. Chain 5, skip the next 3 stitches, single crochet into the 4th stitch, chain 3, double crochet into the last stitch. Now we have these 2 quarter pizzas with a half pizza in the middle. For row 5, chain 1, turn your work. Leave 1 single crochet in that very first stitch. skip the next chain 3 and leave 3 double crochet into the next chain 5 space. Chain 3, and then leave another 3 double crochet into that same chain 5 space. Skip the next chain 3 and leave 1 single crochet in the very last stitch. Here's what your work should be looking like so far. We just completed 5 rows of our 6-row repeat. Next, we're going to start increasing on one side of this front panel only while maintaining a straight side over here. So to begin our increase, chain 1 and turn your work, starting with a stacked double crochet in the very first stitch. Next, leave another double crochet into that same exact stitch, and that's our increase for this row. Everything else remains the same. So chain 3, single crochet into the next chain 3 space, chain 3 again, and double crochet into the very last stitch. Our next row is double crochets only, so chain 1, turn your work, and we are not going to start with an increase because we need to maintain a straight side over here on the right. So let's get started with a stacked double crochet, and then double crochet into every chain and stitch until you reach your last 2 stitches. I've approached my last 2 stitches. I'm going to leave 2 double crochets into each of these 2. So 1, 2, and then the last one, 1 and 2. And that's our increase for this row. Our next row is triple crochets and chains, and we're going to start with an increase. So chain 1, turn your work, beginning with a stacked triple crochet into the very first stitch. Chain 1, and then leave another triple crochet into the very first stitch. Now you have what looks like this tall V-stitch. Next, chain 1, triple crochet into the very next stitch. Do not skip one. That is our increase for this row. Now we continue our pattern just like normal. So chain 1, skip the next stitch and triple crochet into the stitch after that, and repeat that all the way down until you reach the end. Our next row is double crochets only, so chain 1, turn your work, starting with a stacked double crochet. Double crochet into every chain and stitch from the previous row until you have 1 stitch left. I'm at the end of my row here with 1 last stitch remaining, and I'm going to leave my increase there with 2 double crochet. For the next row, chain 1, turn your work, and we're going to start with a stacked double crochet in the very first stitch. Chain 3, and we're going to single crochet into the very next stitch. We're not going to skip one on this row because this is our increase. Chain 5, skip the next 3 stitches and then single crochet into the 4th stitch. Chain 5 again, skip 3, single crochet, chain 5, skip 3, single crochet. We have 2 stitches left, and now we're going to chain 3, skip the next stitch, and double crochet into that very last stitch. Our next row is the open shell stitches, so this row is going to be exactly the same. So chain 1, turn your work, single crochet into the top of that double crochet from the previous row. Skip the next chain 3 space and leave 3 double crochet into the next chain 5 space. Chain 3, and then another 3 double crochet into the same chain 5 space. Single crochet into the next chain 5 space, and then do another open shell stitch into the next chain 5 space. And then single crochet into the very last double crochet from the previous row. As you can see, we now have an additional open shell stitch. We need to continue increasing on every row until we have the same amount of rows as our back panel, so I'll walk you through that. So for the next row, chain 1, turn your work, starting with a stacked double crochet. Leave 1 more double crochet into that very first stitch. Chain 3. Single crochet into the next chain 3 space, chain 7, single crochet into the next chain 3 space, chain 3, and then double crochet into the very last stitch. Our next row is double crochets only, so chain 1, turn your work, starting with a stacked double crochet in the very first stitch. Double crochet into every chain and stitch from the previous row until you have 2 stitches left. Once you reach the end and you have 2 stitches left, you're going to leave 2 double crochet into each stitch. For the next row, chain 1, turn your work. We're going to start with a stacked triple crochet. Chain 1, triple crochet again into that very first stitch, leaving you with a very tall V-stitch. Chain 1, triple crochet into the very next stitch. Now from here, our pattern is back to the same. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, triple crochet into the stitch after that, and repeat. Our next row is double crochets only, chain 1, turn your work, starting with a stacked double crochet, double crochet into every chain space and triple crochet from the previous row until you have 1 stitch left. Once you reach the very last stitch, you're going to leave your increase there, so leave 2 double crochet. And that completes our 15th row of our front panel. Here's what your work should be looking like so far. We have an increase on the inside, and on the outside is straight. Next, we're going to just chain 1 and pull a really long tail and cut our yarn here. After you have fastened off, we are going to flip our top over to the other side, and I like to just take this tail and do a magic knot to connect my yarn. This is optional. You can attach your yarn any other way that you would like. I just noticed that doing the magic knot technique saves me a lot of time, so I don't have to weave in any ends, and it also saves a little bit of length for me to work with more yarn. Everything from here is basically a repeat of the first panel that you did, so I just start with a stacked double crochet and leave 8 more double crochet, and everything else is a repeat. So instead of going through this twice, just rewind back 12-13 minutes and do exactly what you did on the other half. Once you've completed your second front panel, we are going to do one more row, which is going to connect all of our panels together, and it's also our last row of increase. So chain 1, turn your work, starting with a stacked double crochet, chain 3, single crochet into the very next stitch, do not skip one. Next, chain 5, skip the next 3 stitches, single crochet into the 4th stitch. Repeat that until you have 2 stitches left. Once you have 2 stitches left, you're going to chain 3. You're going to grab the bottom of your back panel of the same side and pull it close. Next, what I'm going to do is begin a double crochet in this last stitch, but I'm not going to finish it, so I'm going to yarn over, pull up a loop, pull through 2. I have 2 loops on my hook. Next, I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook into this very last stitch of the corner of my back panel, pull up a loop and pull through 2 again. Now I have 3 loops on my hook. Now I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 3. So we have this joined double crochet. Next, chain 3, skip the next stitch, single crochet into the stitch after that. Now we're going to continue working across the bottom of our back panel. So we have this little armhole here. So chain 5, skip the next 3 stitches, and single crochet into the 4th stitch. Repeat that all along the bottom until you reach the opposite corner, and I'll meet you towards the end to show you how to connect the other front panel. I just left my last chain 5 and I have 2 stitches left. So I'm grabbing the opposite corner of my panel and I'm going to bring it close. From here I'm going to chain 3, begin a double crochet in this very last stitch, but I'm not going to finish it. So yarn over, pull up a loop, pull through 2. I have 2 loops on my hook. Yarn over, bring the opposite corner of your front panel. We're going to insert our hook in the very last stitch of that corner. Pull up a loop and pull through 2. Now we have 3 loops on our hook. Yarn over, pull through all 3. Next, chain 3, skip the next stitch, single crochet into the stitch after that, chain 5, skip the next 3 stitches, single crochet into the 4th stitch, repeat until you have 1 stitch left. When you have 1 stitch left, just chain 3 and double crochet into that very last stitch. And now we are done increasing and we have this little tiny vest. Our next row is a row of the open shell stitch, and it's pretty easy. Chain 1, turn your work, single crochet into the very first stitch. I forgot to do that here. Skip over that chain 3 and leave your open shell stitch into the next chain 5. Repeat that all the way down until you reach the intersection where both of the panels connect, and I'll show you how to work your shell stitches into that. Okay, I've reached this section where it's kind of funky looking. We have a chain 3 that conjoined double crochet in the center and then another chain 3. So since I just left a shell stitch, I'm going to single crochet right here in the center. Next, we skip over this chain 3 and then begin leaving an open shell stitch into the next chain 5. And then you're going to continue this all across the bottom until you reach the opposite armpit, I guess, area. And I'll meet you on that section to show you how to do this again. Right now I'm leaving my last open shell stitch and I'm about to approach the armpit area. So here we have our chain 3, that funky conjoined double crochet and another chain 3. So I'm just going to single crochet right there in the middle of those double crochets. And skipping over this chain 3, going into the next chain 5 with a open shell stitch, and then continuing my pattern back to normal until I reach the very end. Alright, the hardest part of this tutorial is done now. Everything else is a repeat from the first 10 minutes of this tutorial. You're basically going to do your 6-row repeats now until this reaches your belly button. You will not be adding any more increases, so I'm just going to do the next few rows off camera and give you an update. Here's what my work looks like after 8 more rows. I finished off on a double crochet row, and this shell stitch row is where we left off. So next, we're about to join these together, but we need to add our rows of triple crochets and chain spaces, and I just did that real quick. And this is the row that you need to leave off on before we start connecting this together. So after you have completed your triple crochet and chain spaces, we need to figure out how many chains it's going to take to connect the front panel to the other front panel. And this has to be a multiple of 8 minus 1. Because we're going to begin working in the round, and the round has to be exactly multiples of 8. So for my size, I'm going to chain 7. That's a multiple of 8 minus 1. If you're making a larger size, I would suggest chaining 15. So after you've made your chains, you're going to grab the other front panel and insert your hook into the far corner and just basically chain 1. Pull a very long tail here, and we're going to cut. At this point, I would try this on, slide it over your head, and make sure that you're able to put this on and that this isn't too tight around your waist. We will be adding more increases whenever we start reaching the hip section. I'll demonstrate how to do that when we get to that point. Next, what I'm doing here is looking at the back panel. I'm finding my center stitch, and I'm going to insert my hook into that center stitch and attach my yarn here. And this is how we're going to begin working in the round. So grab your yarn, pull it through, and tie a knot. Reinsert your hook into that center stitch, pull a loop through, chain 1, and then start with a stacked double crochet. Continue double crocheting into every chain and stitch from the previous row until you reach the chains in the front of your dress. I'll meet you whenever you get to that point. I've approached my chain 7. Make sure that you're leaving a double crochet into that very last stitch where you joined your slip stitch together, and then double crochet into every chain until you reach the opposite panel. Continue leaving a double crochet into every chain and stitch from the previous row all the way until you reach the end, and I'll show you how to complete this row. Once you reach the end of your round, make sure you're leaving your last double crochet into the chain space. Next, you're going to slip stitch into the top of your stacked double crochet, which was the very first stitch we made on this row. And that's how you connect and finish your first round. Next, chain 1, turn your work. And we're going to insert 1 single crochet into that same first stitch. From here, chain 5, skip the next 3 stitches, single crochet into the 4th stitch, and you're going to repeat that all the way around until you reach the end. I've reached the end of my round. I have 3 stitches left, so I'm going to chain 5. And then I'm going to slip stitch into that very first single crochet that we made. Our next row is the open shell stitches, and I'm going to show you how to do that in the round. So chain 1, turn your work. We're going to slip stitch into the first 2 chains. And then we're going to single crochet into this chain 5. Next, reach over to the next chain 5 and leave your first open shell stitch, which is 3 double crochet, chain 3, and then 3 more double crochet. Single crochet into the next chain 5. Here's what your work should be looking like so far, and you're going to repeat this all the way around until you reach the end. So I have 1 chain 5 left, and I'm leaving my last open shell stitch. After you've left your last open shell stitch, you're going to slip stitch into this single crochet that we left in this first chain 5. For the next row, chain 1, turn your work. Slip stitch into the first 3 double crochet. And then single crochet into the next chain 3 space. From here, we are going to chain 7. I'd advise you to chain very loosely here. Reach all the way over to the next shell and single crochet into the chain 3. Chain 7 again, and repeat, all the way until you reach the end. Here I am leaving my last chain 7. Next, I'm going to slip stitch into this first single crochet that we made on this row. And there you have it, folks. Everything else is a repeat. Our next row is double crochets. I've already demonstrated how to do that. So go ahead and chain 1, starting with a stacked double crochet in the very first stitch, and then leave a double crochet into every chain and stitch until you reach the end. Once you reach the end, slip stitch into the stacked double crochet at the beginning of this row. Our next row is the triple crochets and chain spaces, so chain 1, turn your work, start with a stacked triple crochet. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, triple crochet into the stitch after that. Repeat this all the way around, and I'll show you how to finish this row off whenever you get towards the end. I'm towards the end of my round here and I have one stitch remaining. So I'm going to chain one and then slip stitch on top of this stacked triple crochet. And that's how you finish this row off. Now we are ready to begin increasing. Luckily, this is going to be a really easy way of increasing. It's not going to be as complicated as the front panels. So yeah, whenever we're increasing, we still need to maintain multiples of 8. And one of these shell stitches is a multiple of 8. So it's only going to get that much wider. If that's not wide enough for you and you think you need 2 shell stitches worth of increasing, then I'll show you how to do that. So what we need to do is take our stitch count. I currently have 112 stitches, and you're going to divide that by 8. So I get 14. What that means is you're going to increase on every 14th stitch, or whatever number yours came out to be. So go ahead and chain 1, start with a stacked double crochet. This stacked double crochet counts as my first stitch, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. In this 14th stitch, I'm leaving 2 double crochet. If you need to increase by 2 shell stitches, then leave 3 double crochet. And then repeat this all the way around until you reach the end. Whenever you reach your very last stitch, you should be leaving an increase in that. If you're not, then your count is off. I've reached the end of my round and I'm leaving my last increase into this very last stitch. Now, finally, I am slip stitching into the stacked double crochet we started with, and that completes our increase row. Everything else from here is the same, so I'm going to go ahead and complete the next 5 rows of our repeats, and I'll meet you whenever I get to that point. I just completed the next 5 rows, and I ended off on this triple crochet and chain row, and I'm going to do one more increase. So after I did my last increase, I now have 120 stitches total. I'm going to take that number and divide it by 8, and I'm going to increase on every 15th stitch now. So the instructions for this are the exact same as the last increase row that we did. If you need to increase by 2 open shell stitches, then leave 3 double crochet on your increase stitches. So I'm going to finish the rest of this row off camera. This is what it looks like whenever I was finished. At this point, I want to try it on, and I'm going to do that on camera so that you can see what this dress is looking like on my body at this point. So I'm just leaving my stitch marker here. Here's what the dress looks like laid out so far. And let's try her on. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and try this on at this point and demonstrate like what it should be looking like on your body right now. I have my stitch marker on. Okay, make sure everything fits in the camera. So this is definitely supposed to be this wide right here. It's not supposed to touch or come together, so yeah, that's looking right. And this is like basically fitting around my hips perfectly, and yeah. So we will be doing more work on the inside right here for lace-up closure, but just make sure that everything can fit and slide over your hips at this point. So I just finished another 5 rows after my last update, and I ended off on this triple crochet and chain row, and I've decided that I do want to add another increase. So after our last increase, we now have 128 stitches. Divide that number by 8. I'm going to leave an increase on every 16th stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and the next 5 rows off camera. Here's what my work looks like so far, and I am going to try it on again for you guys and give you an update of how this is fitting. Okay, we're going to try her on again. See where we're at with the length and how wide. Boom, boom. Bam. I like the way that fits around. I don't think I need any more increases. And I actually think maybe one more set. So I did 6 more rows after my last update. Here's what my dress looks like laid out so far. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rounds total. So I ended off here on this triple crochet and chain row. I'm ready to start doing my edging now, but I need to do my last row of double crochet and the chain 5s. So I'm gonna do that off camera. Here is where I'm at now. All we have left to do is our open shell stitches, but we're gonna do them a little bit differently for our very last row because we want it to look a lot nicer. So chain 1, turn your work, slip stitch into the first 2 chains, single crochet into that same chain 5 space, reaching over to the next chain 5 space, leave 4 double crochet, next we're going to do a picot stitch, so chain 3. From here you're going to insert your hook into the first chain and then slip stitch through. And then another 4 double crochet into the same chain 5 space. Single crochet into the next chain 5 space. And this is how your new fan looks like for our edging. So repeat this, I'll show you one more time. 4 double crochet into the next chain 5. Chain 3. Slip stitch into the first chain. And then 4 more double crochet into the same chain 5 stitch. You're going to repeat this all the way around until you reach the end. Just like normal, whenever you reach the end, slip stitch into the very first chain that you made, chain up 1 and pull a very long tail, grab your scissors, stab your hand, and then cut your yarn. Next, I'm going to weave this in with my tapestry needle at super speed, and I'm just going to weave it through one of my open shell stitches like 6 or 7 times. I don't know how many times I just did this, but I go through it a lot because this bamboo string is really silky and will like to slip out. Next, we're going to single crochet all around this front section of our dress, and we're going to start using this tail. The reason why is because we're going to single crochet right here all the way around and end right here, and then we're going to go back with double crochet and chain spaces all the way down to here, and then single crochet across the bottom, and then double crochet and chain spaces up to here, and then we're going to single crochet over all of that all the way back down, back up, and end right here again. So let's get started with that. I'm going to go ahead and attach my yarn with the magic knot technique. So after you've attached your yarn, insert your hook, pull a loop through and chain 1, and leave a single crochet. Now, as you can see, I am working on this double crochet row, so I'm going to leave 2 single crochet on this double crochet row. Moving over, I've reached my triple crochet row, so I'm going to leave 3 single crochet on this row. Next row is a double crochet row, so I'm going to leave 2 single crochet here. This next row is where we did our chain 7s, and there was a double crochet at the end of that, so I'm leaving 2 single crochet here. Our next row is this open shell stitch where we ended with a single crochet, so I'm just leaving 1 single crochet there. Here you see our quarter pizza, so I'm leaving 2 single crochet right there, and repeat. Here's a double crochet row, I'm leaving 2 single crochet here. Here's my triple crochet row. I'm leaving 3 single crochet here. And repeat this all around the opening of your dress. I've just finished single crocheting all around the opening of my dress, and now I'm just going to slip stitch into this very first single crochet that we made. And I didn't like the way that the next single crochet looked, so I tried to single crochet into that to cover up my joined yarn, but it didn't really work. It kind of worked, but yeah. Now we're going to start doing our double crochet and chain stitches all the way down to the bottom. So chain 1, turn your work, and we're going to start with a stacked double crochet in the very first stitch. Next, chain 1, skip the next stitch, and then leave a double crochet in the stitch after that. You're going to repeat that a few more times until you reach the bottom of your front panel. I'm towards the end of my front panel here, and I have 1 chain on my hook currently. Next, I'm just counting how many spaces I have, and I currently have 10, and this last stitch is going to give me 11. So what you're supposed to do from here is count 5 spaces over and slip stitch into the 5th stitch. And I think that I had slip stitched 1 stitch too far. It looks a little bit funky right here, and I went back and fixed it, but I did that off camera. So make sure you're counting 5 stitches away. Next, I should be slip stitching into the next 3 stitches. If you're making a larger size where you had a chain 15 right here in the front of your dress, then you might be slip stitching about 10 more times. Next, I'm trying to see where to anchor my first double crochet on the other side of my front panel. This double crochet aligns with the top of this row with the triple crochet, so that's where I'm going to put that. Chain 1, I'm going to double crochet at the top of this triple crochet row, and now as you can see, they kind of match up and align. So since I have 11 spaces on the other side, I need 11 spaces on this side, so I'm going to continue double crocheting, chaining 1 and skipping 1 all the way down until I have the same amount of spaces on both sides. So this side has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. The other side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Perfect, they match. And they both start and end on the same exact row. So let's go ahead and chain 1, turn your work, and we're going to single crochet into every chain and stitch all the way around until we reach the end. After you have left your very last single crochet, chain 1 and pull a super long tail and go ahead and fasten off. Here's what the front of my dress looks like. As you can see, the bottom part of my lace-up area looks a little pinched together because I went too far with my slip stitch, and I did go back and fix that. See, that's what it looks like fixed. So I'm just going to weave this tail in at super speed, and then we're going to start on the arm. Now I'm ready to start working all around this armhole, and of course I'm going to attach my yarn using the magic knot. And also all of the same rules apply with our single crochets and how many you're going to do per row, just like we did on the inside of our dress. So go ahead and attach your yarn and get started with single crocheting all around the inside of your armhole. I've reached the end of my armhole here, and of course you're going to end with a slip stitch into the first stitch that you made. Now this is very important, but we need to count how many stitches we left all the way around our armhole. I ended up having 64 stitches total, which is an exact multiple of 8. Now you might not get that lucky. If you don't, then we're basically going to do whatever we need to do to get to a multiple of 8. I also want to do a decrease on my next row, so I'm going to take this number, divide it by 8. So 64 divided by 8 is 8. So that means I'm going to decrease on every 8th stitch. If your stitch count was not a multiple of 8, then you're basically just going to squeeze in some decreases there randomly throughout this row just to get to a multiple of 8. So I really hope that makes sense. Next, I'm going to demonstrate how to do a decrease. So chain 1, begin with a stacked double crochet in the very first stitch, and this counts as our first stitch. Double crochet into the next 6 stitches. So that's my second stitch, third, fourth, 5th, 6th, and 7th. On our 8th stitch, we're doing a decrease, so yarn over, insert your hook into the next stitch, pull up a loop, pull through 2. Yarn over, insert your hook into the next stitch, pull up a loop, pull through 2. Now you have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 3, and that is how you decrease. So repeat this pattern all the way around until you reach the end. And like I said, if you need to add a few more decreases in there randomly just to get to a multiple of 8 number, do whatever you have to do. We won't notice any errors. Nothing is going to look funky looking. If you just put a few more decreases in there, it really is all going to work out. I promise. Just put them there and get a multiple of 8. For example, I just left my last decrease and I still have 2 stitches left over, so how I'm going to fix that is I'm just going to unravel this last decrease and I'm going to pop a decrease into these last 3 stitches just like this. So yeah, you can really finesse this however you want. I have 56 stitches now. No one can stop me. Now that we have a multiple of 8, we are going to begin our pattern just like normal and start doing our 6-row repeat. So I'm going to go ahead and complete the next 5 rows off camera and give you an update. And I'm just gonna give you an update for every 6-row repeat that I do. So let's do it. Here's my first 6-row repeat, my second, third, and fourth. At this point, the sleeve reaches my elbow and I'm ready to start flaring it out to turn this into a bell sleeve, but I need to do another row of my triple crochets and chains. So I'm going to go ahead and add that to the end, and then I'm going to start doing my increase. So I currently have 56 stitches and I'm going to divide that by 8. That means I'm going to increase on every 7th stitch. Now I want this to flare out faster than normal, so I'm going to do 3 double crochet on every 7th stitch this time. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate that. Starting with a stacked double crochet, this is my first stitch, second, third, fourth, 5th, and 6th. Now here on my 7th stitch, I'm going to leave 3 double crochet, And I'm going to repeat this all the way around until I reach the end. Here's what my work looked like once I was finished with this row. As you can see, it's a pretty noticeable flare. So I'm going to do the next 5 rows off camera and I'll meet you for the next increase. I just finished the next 5 rows of my 6-row repeat and I ended off here on this triple crochet and chain row. So after our last increase row, I now have 72 stitches. I'm going to divide that number by 8. 72 divided by 8 is 9, so I'm going to leave my increase on every 9th stitch. After I finish this row, I'm going to do my chain 5s and prepare to leave my last open shell stitch on the edge. So go ahead and complete that for yourself and I'll meet you at that point. Alright, I just did my chain 5 row and I'm ready to leave my open shell stitch here. And these open shell stitches are just like the ones we left at the bottom of our dress. So slip stitch into the next 2 chains and then single crochet underneath that chain 5. Skip over to the next chain 5, leave 4 double crochet, chain 3, and then slip stitch into the first chain, leaving a picot stitch, and then leave 4 more double crochet into that same chain 5. Reach over to the next chain 5 and then leave a single crochet, and then repeat this all the way around. Here's my sleeve after she's all said and done. She looks so pretty. Alright, I have to do the other sleeve now, and I'm kind of panicking a little bit because this is how much yarn I have left on my last skein, and I'm not sure if it's enough, but we're going to insert your hook into this far corner here, and that's where you're going to attach your yarn and do the same exact thing that you did for the other sleeve. And look at this. This is how much yarn I have left over after I finished my last sleeve. All you have left to do now is make a chain to lace up into the front of your dress. So I ended up chaining about 200 here for my front strap. After you've made your strap, tie a knot on both ends so that it doesn't unravel or anything, and cut off any of the excess string. And we're about to lace her up. Let's go. So since I have an odd number of spaces, I'm going to lace my straps up into every other space, starting in the first one at the bottom and making sure my straps are the same length. And I'm just going back and forth here. That completes this tutorial. I really hope you guys enjoyed this, and I would love to see y'all's creations that you made from this tutorial. Here are all of my handles. You can tag me in your posts. I love sharing your posts to my story, and don't forget to give me a like and subscribe.